folks, Tip here from the Stupid Gardener. This is part 7 of our series, Compost Happens. And today we'll want to go over burying your kitchen scraps in your raised garden bed. And you remember a couple weeks ago, actually it was 2 weeks ago, that we buried some kitchen scraps in here. And so we just want to check on them. It's been 2 weeks since I put them in there. It'll probably be like 4 weeks or so before you see it, because I've filmed a couple of videos each weekend just to stay ahead in case I get busy at work and different things like that, or bad weather. But anyway, so it's been 2 weeks. We're going to check this, then we're going to talk about this monstrosity I got built here behind me. This is the worm bin. We're going to go over that too. So let me dig in here. I did film something earlier, and my camera fell over and it shut off, so I had to start over. So, but anyways, let's get rolling. So let me dig down here and see what we got. At first glance, there's still, I can still see some eggshells that didn't break down, and I may start zapping those in the microwave and drying them up and crunching them up more, or just put them in my compost. They take a little longer to break down, but they're still something great to put into your garden, your compost, or whatever. So, and let me dig down here and see. And really, I just got a little cardboard still there. It's breaking down. Pretty much the paper towels that I put in there, and I think we put in bananas, some apples, and paper towels, and those are pretty much gone. It doesn't take long for those to go. Here's a little bit of paper towel here, and some more paper towel. It's going to take a little longer for that, but that's still good. And a little bit of bananas, banana peel, but boy, they are mushy and they are pretty much gone. I don't see any apples. The apple skins I put in here. Here's the banana stem there, and that's breaking down. And when I was digging around here earlier, I saw some nice worms in here, so they're doing a great job. But all those apple peels are gone. And so I'm just going to bury this back in there, put that cardboard back in there. And since the worms did such a great job, I got a little treat for them. I got this banana peel. I'm not going to cut it up. I'm just going to throw it in there and cover it back up. And they will enjoy that. And I'll probably bury a few more in here. But so that's 2 weeks, you know, so really after a month, all that's going to be gone. So that's a great thing to do in your garden. So if you're living like an apartment or a condo and you don't have room for a big compost pile, you can take your kitchen scraps and bury them right in your garden, you know, especially in the winter time, because that's going to decompose. By the time spring comes, you're going to have some great soil to get growing. So let's talk about this worm bin. And let me give you a little history of my experience with the worm bin. Being the stupid gardener and not being patient, you know, I wanted to do a worm bin. Didn't have time last spring to do it, so I decided to start it like in October, and I was keeping it in my shed. So I just used like a Rubbermaid bin, and I didn't, you know, I probably should have waited till the springtime, but you know, I put compost on the bottom, drilled a bunch of holes like you see on all these videos on YouTube, and put some paper in there, some shredded paper and everything. And I bought like 1,000 worms, and I think they were like 20 bucks or so. They're really not that expensive. And so, you know, they delivered them. I put them in there, and you know, I didn't have time to come out and, you know, feed them during the week. And we went through a cold snap. I was afraid they're going to die in there because I didn't think they're going to acclimate, you know, to the worm bin I had in there, and I didn't really want to use a plastic worm bin. It just didn't seem right. And so I just said, you know, I'd be better suited to take those and just put them in the compost. And so that's what I did. I put them in the compost, and they have done great. If I dig down about this much, there are all kinds of worms in there, and I bought the red wiggler worms, and we'll go over that, and probably, you know, start this thing up in March, and we'll have a couple of videos on that. But it's going to be like a year experiment that I want to do. You know, start it in March and let it go all the way to, you know, September, October, and just see what we have. And so this worm bin that I have, it's like 34 inches wide, 28 inches high, about 2 foot deep. And on the bottom here, I have this hardware cloth. That's, you know, this is 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. And then on the sides, inside, I got this mesh cloth here, all around the sides. And that's just to keep the worms away from the wood and everything, and to keep it kind of insulated. Um, so my hopes are, when I put in I'm gonna put a layer of newspaper on the bottom, and then put in some shredded paper, put some compost in there, mix it around a little bit, and then buy some worms and put them in there and let them start working. And I'm gonna start feeding them, you know, some kitchen scraps. And worms do a great job chowing down your kitchen scraps. They're going to work that compost and everything, and they do a great job in here. So I kind of want to do it in here, and I really would like to get this whole thing filled up with worm castings. And the reason I have the hardware cloth on the bottom is I want those worm castings to fall out the bottom. And I don't know if that 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch is going to be big enough. I may have to get under there and kind of, you know, cut some away so it falls. And I want to put a little shelf here on the bottom and just get another tub like this and just set these in here and let it catch all the worm castings along with the worm urine, and they call that like a worm tea. And great stuff to put on your plants, great stuff to mix off with water, and, you know, and feed all your flowers, your vegetable garden. It's just depends on how much we get. And so I don't know if I'm going to be better suited buying worms and just putting in my compost, or just do what I usually do and just dig around and just get worms and keep throwing them in there. These worms will regulate themselves as far as the size of the container that you put them in. So this is a pretty big size, so hopefully I'll get a lot of worms. And I can really harvest some of the worms and put them in my compost and put them in my garden. So it'll just be kind of interesting. And it was cheap to make, because all this wood, these 2x4s I got from work, and they have them all stacked up, so I usually grab some 2x4s. I'm always going to use them. These boards here, when they built my fence 3 or 4 years ago, they had some extra wood that was cracked and everything, and so I asked them what they're going to do with it, and they said, you know, this is going to hollow away. And I said, man, leave it here. I'll use it for something. So this has been sitting in my shed, you know, for a couple of years, and now I have a use for them. Only thing I had to buy was this hardware cloth, and I had this stuff sitting in my shed for a couple of years, and so I had to buy some nails. So it was cheaply made. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, no big loss. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, one thing about worms and having a worm bin, they're constantly feeding, constantly reproducing, and they're gonna get all that fungus and that bacteria out of your compost, and as they digest that, their worm castings are gonna come out, and that's perfect fertilizer for your garden and plants. It's just a matter of how much are we gonna get. You know, will I be better suited having them in the compost, which I think the way it's going to work, but it'll be a good thing to try. So I just got to build a cover for this, and I have some wood at work that I'm going to put a cover on here, but I'm not going to do it till March. And I got to find a good place that I can keep this outside, because I don't want to get any raccoons to get in there, because that's like steak and lobster to them. They'll have a great old time with getting into a worm bin. And I just need to drill probably some holes here, small holes, just so snakes don't get in there or anything like that, and some small holes on top to get the airflow in there. And really, to keep it dry, you got to keep putting some paper in, and the worms love the paper, so we'll just have to watch it. But it's going to be interesting. It's just something to try and just see what happens. So just stay tuned, and we'll work on that probably in March, and we'll do a couple of videos on that. Before I go, in part 6 of Compost Happens, I showed myself urinating on the compost. Now, I was just simulating that I was urinating on the compost, just messing around. Now, I do urinate on my compost all the time, but I wouldn't show myself urinating on the compost. But when I showed that video to the wife, she gave me that famous look that a wife always gives their husband when he's doing something stupid. So my apologies to her, but I do urinate on my compost as much as I possibly can, but I would never videotape that. I was just kind of joking around. So anyways, This is part 7 of our series. If you're new to the channel, there's a whole bunch of other parts you can go back and watch, and you can subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, hit that like button, put a comment down below, and part 8, we're probably gonna screen some stuff off the compost and get going, because I want to get these beds filled up really before the end of February, so by the time end of March comes, I start planting, they're all filled up and ready to go. So until the next time, everyone have a great day, and this is Tip from the Stupid Gardener. God bless everybody.